Hey, anyone else ever, cry when they pee? Not like really cry, just sort of like your eyes water involuntarily, which is literally what crying is, but there's no emotion attached. It's like they want to participate in the expellation of saline fluid. Anyway, this is the Ramblecast, episode 4. And, I'm Gleam's producer. I I'm not quite formerly known as Ormethon. I was never. Holy. Did someone spike my Earl Grey? I was never known as Ormethon, but I was not quite formerly, still am. I used to be known as Orethon. Still am. Used to be too. I mostly go by Madison now. Just, preferred name. And, well, let me digress first. Orethon was originally going to be Sagittarius just straight up. Well, let me walk you through this because it's kind of emblematic of how I think. I was making my account for Dungeons and Dragons Online, and I made I logged in with the email I had, which was cringy McCringe name number Crumber Crumber. It was literally like adjective noun 3-digit number. Like Ramblecast 004, but that's not my email. Anyway. I signed up, played DDO online. Dungeons and Dragons online. Online. And I made my first character, and I made them a elf ranger. And I was like, okay, what do I name this character? And I was like, Sagittarius, because rangers use bows, and Sagittarius is a hunter that uses a bow, much like a ranger. That makes sense, right? And, of course, the name was taken. So I was like, okay, option 2, Orion. It's other constellation that does hunting. Taken. So what I did was I inserted a th between Ori and on. Orithon. But that looked fucking dumb, in my opinion. The I just didn't take up enough space between the R and the T. So I made it an E. And that's how we got Orethon. So there's that name origin story, finally explained and out there for once and for all. Oh, funny thing is, that's where I got another thing I used for some things, which was Oreo, because people just shortened Orethon to that in the clan I was in. And I'm still bitter about this. This happened in, I want to say, 2012, 2011. I got kicked out of the clan I was in because someone was like, hey, are any of you a mod? And I was like, no, I'm not. What's going on? Maybe is there anything I can do to help? Because I just wanted to be helpful. And they were like, you impersonated a mod, you're banned. I was like, oh, I incredibly uptight of you, but okay. So yeah, that is where Orethon came from. Which brings me to my next topic. We are on Patreon. Under Gleam's title, because I want her to be the primary, famous person. That's why my face isn't anywhere in this screen that you're seeing here. Instead, it's just my sweet shirt and a small portion of my... You know what I'm talking about. I like the separation. Plus, she really is not the same as me. Like, when I say she lives in a different world, I mean she lives in a different world. Like, I say this figuratively, in a very literal sense. Like, her perspective is so detached from material reality that keeping her quarantined to the internet is basically all I can do. In terms of her having things to do. Um, and what we would usually do is we would just chat with each other in our head while playing whatever we were playing, which turns out to be shit watching. Because it's just the body sitting there, apparently zoned out, thousand yard stare, slicing down enemies or getting sliced down, while just sort of like, mm-hmm, hey, uh-huh, yeah, that's clever. I just thought of something smart, and that's all it is. Um, so isolating and reifying and all those important alchemical processes have turned out to be helpful here. Now, where was I? You know what's ironic? Dragon's Dogma 2 added catfolk. After I wrote a catfolk to be my Dragon's Dogma character's girlfriend, which is the character that eventually became Gleam. Because I was like, well, I mean, she's half Fae already. Why can't there be a cat of some sort? And then I was like, okay, so what kind of cat creatures are there? And I was like, all right, we've got Bake Neko, Neko Mata. And then I was looking through Toho characters, and I saw Kai and Bio Ren, and I was like, ooh, Kasha, that's cool. I'll take a little bit of that. Yoink. Yoink that inspiration there. I'm sure it came through. um, but also just cat girls are just such a thing that I really shouldn't have to justify myself further. Oh, yeah. I'm recording this right before I get Gleam set up to record some Bleak Faith. And then I'll be editing that. Um, it's not just a bit that I talk about her like she's not me. Um, she's connected to me, but uh, as a guy who did drugs once said, it's like if you cut my arm off and called it Mads, then you put it back on and called it Mads altogether. Ah, jeez. I just realized I gotta make a little short about this. Solasta has the kind of dialogue options that my brain feels like it has. Because the different options are always presented by different party members. It's like blank wants to say such, and blink wants to say so, and so like and such forth. Um, so in my head, it's always like, okay, we have three reactions. Which one do we show on the outside? Um, and most of the time, it's the very robotic, hyper mask, not masculine, masking, hyper masking, uh, body language of just, yes, I am here. I'm present. I am in this location. Indeed. Big stretch. Yeah. So, when this goes up, last night, I put out, or moved to free access the Patreon post that has the original appearance of Gleam. That was originally what I would, when I was role playing. Well, it was technically role playing because it was in text and online with other people. But the point is, um, when I was doing that, I would usually start with that, or at least the first time I started with that. I wrote it out first to make sure I had it right, and I saved it, and thank goodness I did. And then I copied and I pasted it to the app. It was called Lobby. I don't know if it still exists. Um, and then I like wrote more after that, which is why it kind of trails off because there was a really short character limit on there for a long time. And if you wrote something over the character limit, it wouldn't tell you. It would just not send it. And I don't mean you would press the button and it wouldn't send. I mean, it would press the button and it would clear the text field and your message would be deleted. So if you didn't back that shit up, sorry, fucker. So my first phone and my first tablet, which was a gift from my sister, are full of little like RP starters that I saved. And that's sort of what got me into writing fanfic. But of course, I was writing fanfic in my head like from as soon as I could experience media. Like, let's see, earliest memory, parents, er, sorry, friend's mom walks in the door, walks out. Okay, boom. That was preschool. Next memory, deck a kid in preschool for taking the tricycle. Still preschool. Next memory, bite a kid in kindergarten for poking me in the face over and over. At first, he was poking me in the back of the head, and then I turned around and he kept poking me. And then I opened my mouth and he put his finger in it, and he played a stupid game and got a stupid prize. Of course, I wasn't, they weren't too thrilled with my behavior either, but I stand by it. I mean, it was wrong, but I'm not going to feel guilty about it, if you know what I mean. That's another thing I've realized is it's okay to acknowledge something you did was wrong and feel guilty about it, and then be done feeling guilty about it. Because if you just keep feeling guilty about everything you've ever done, it'll just pile on top of itself forever. And there's not going to be room for anything else eventually. Like, that's what we have a statute of limitations in the law for, right? I mean, not literally that. obviously. I hope. But that kind of, like, hey, are you even the same person you were 14 years ago? And this was more than that long ago, sadly. Oh, I do not enjoy this thing called adulthood. It's so fucking frustrating. Because I remember being a kid. And I remember video games coming out, and I was like, I want to do this as my job. This is the best thing. I want to be a video gamer. And everyone said, that's not a job, dumbass. They didn't say dumbass, but they looked at me like they thought I was one. You can't make money playing video games. There's no way. So, I didn't. I I learned video editing in high school, and I had access to the tools I would have needed to make videos. In the first year of high school, so like 2010. And instead I just made like aesthetic montages of like fountains and trees, which like neat, easy grade, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was just because people were like, well, you can't make a video out of a video game. And this was back before capture cards were cheap and useful, common. But yeah, gaming is gaming and funny. I remember I read a very old, dated joke book. It was from the Friars Club. Don't recommend it. But it actually gave me a lot of insight into bigotry. Because I was reading all these jokes about minorities and going, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, literally, I don't even remember some of the things that was written in it because I was just like, that doesn't. Like, I know there was a section on, the very. There was a section on just women. And I don't remember any of those jokes because there's. I don't get it. Where's the joke? What's the funny? You're just being mean. What I did like was, why is the ocean always roaring? You would too if you had crabs on your bottom. When I performed that at the school talent show in like 3rd or 4th grade, I had to switch ass to bottom because my parents told me ass was a bad word. They didn't tell me that crabs were an STD though. So that got more of a laugh than I knew how to expect. But I was told you can't do those things. Those won't work. You won't make money doing that. You have to get a degree. You have to go to college. You have to get good grades. You'll never succeed if you don't do this and that and this. And it was just so much pressure that I was like, well, if it's that hard, why bother? Like, every year, almost every year as I was growing up, the world seemed to get worse. And I was like, why even bother to learn to drive? Till I was like 19. I think that's a really big difficulty for me with potential and expectations. A lot of people expect way, way, way more than I have. Or expect it faster than I can do it. I think that's what it is. I fucking hell. I'm gonna digress into an explanation. So there's this Jimmy Neutron episode that I remember very clearly because it hit me right in the face of my feelings about this guy who couldn't finish any of his genius ideas. Like, they were all better than Jimmy's, but he would get them like halfway or 90% of the way, and then he'd work on something else. And I was like, oh, like me. How do you fix that? And they never said. They said just finish things. And then they beat up the villain. But I'm sorry, if there was a scientist who could reliably deliver 90% finished projects that have nothing wrong with them except for the fact that they have not been fully assembled. Or, like, there's, like, a couple key things that need to be finished. Why can't you just get that person an assistant? Like, teamwork, we are stronger together. Like, ah. But I don't have the resources or social whatever to just sort of acquire those things. So instead, I'm taking advantage of myself. No, not that way. I mean, like, I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm more than one person to divide the workload. Which might not be necessary if it weren't for the trauma that caused that in the first place, but here we fucking are. Speaking of trauma, my, oh, jeez. Just going to say it makes me feel like I have to explain. Like, oh no, I did move out. I had a job and I moved out. And it was going fine. And then my GM referenced my then significant other being murdered during a time when he was ghosting me. And I flipped out because I was like 19, 20, 21, 22? I don't have a clear memory of time. I was definitely drinking age. So 22 probably. And I got kicked out of the place I was living in, which was charging me way too much anyway. And I had nowhere else to go but back to my mom's, and she was like forcing me to go to college as a term of housing. And she called it our agreement. I called it your ultimatum. And I'm sorry, but if you make someone's housing contingent on them doing something, they will not like doing that something. Like, if you're using housing to get them to do it. Especially if they already have trauma related to doing it. I had, like, so much absenteeism as a kid because I had psychosomatic as in brought on by stress and anxiety and tension, headaches and stomach aches. And I would be like, my stomach hurts, my head hurts, I can't go to school, I don't want to go to school, I won't go to school. And it was so much that they almost like, they did call CPS on us because I was like truancy or was whatever. Um, and the reason for it, the reason I was so stressed and anxious and tense about going to school is because I was being bullied and no one would listen or help. They say they helped, but uh, that's evidence shows. But hey, who knows? I'm biased. Regardless, it was enough to make me feel sick to my stomach at the thought of going to school. Literally feeling it now. But the thing is, I actually liked the college classes I went to. Almost all of them. It was just other shit happening in my life that interrupted them. Sometimes that other shit was ridiculous. You know, like 8-hour time difference relationship that like pulls you into codependency disorder and causes you to waste thousands of dollars on a gacha game. That kind of stuff. Right, anyway, I live with my mom because I'm broke. And I've been watching the house the past few days, and I'm recording this before she gets back. Hopefully I will be done recording before... Yeah. It's literally like living... I'm not calling her a monster. I'm saying from the perspective of my stress, it is like living with a monster. Every conversation that lasts more than two sentences turns into a verbal sparring match. If I try to disengage, I'm giving her the cold shoulder. If I argue back, I'm being too sensitive. But I'm so far behind. If I had chased this dream as soon as I got a computer, I'd be where I want to be now. Or I'd have at least learned it wasn't going to work by now and gone to do something else. But what I did instead was go to do something else, and now I know that that won't work. I just can't take it. I can't. Between being trans and being neurodivergent and the synesthesia and sound overload, like, I don't know. Anyway, let me know about the pee cry thing. That'll be it for this one, folks. See you next time. Bow, bow, bow,